On today's Daz tutorial, I'm going to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to do an entire scene setup from start to finish using some of the techniques that I've done in my previous tutorial videos. So I may start doing this on every Friday, and since this is the month of October, all of them this month are going to be Halloween themed. So if you like this idea, be sure to hit the like button and leave me a comment below if you want to see more of these. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well so you never miss any of my Daz tutorials. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to do a werewolf attack scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is to drop in my background. Alright, I'm going to use the same barnyard set that I used in my earlier video on my first Moonlight tutorial. There we go. And I'm going to be sure to link to all of the relevant products that I use in the description below if you want to check any of these out. There we go. Alright, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use an HDRI background on this. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Alright, I'm using Darkest Night HDRI by Orestes, which is one of my favorite HDRI sets for nighttime scenes. I'm going to use Darkest Night 01. Let's go ahead and load that in. There we go. Those load in really fast. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in my models. Alright, so I've got both of my models dropped into the scene. I'm using Bridget 8HD for my female model, and then for my werewolf I'm using Lycan HD, and I'll link to both of those in the description below as well. Alright, next I'm going to go ahead and dress my figures. Now my Lycan HD comes preloaded with all of his textures and everything, so I don't really have to worry about him. I'm just going to worry about what to do with my Bridget figure. So let's do her materials first. And I'm going to go for kind of a late 70s, early 80s slasher vibe look to this, so I'm going to try to reflect that in her makeup and hair and clothing options. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and do her hair. I'm going to use Cafe Curl. That's one of my favorite hair add-ons. There we go. We're going to make her kind of a redhead. There we go. Alright, now let's just get her clothing figured out. There we go. So we're going to do a tube top and tight jeans. I'm going to select a slightly different material for that top though. Let's go with the black stripes. I think I like that one. There we go. And let's go ahead and do... I don't always do shoes because I usually don't put feet in my scenes, but I think this one I'm going to, so I'm going to go ahead and pick out a shoe option for her as well. There we go. I think that'll work pretty well. Alright, and the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and get our figures posed. And I was messing around with this earlier. I couldn't find any poses that I really liked, so probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a couple of existing poses and then modify them, just so I don't have to do the poses completely from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and put my werewolf facing my Bridget. There we go. Let's go ahead and do her pose first. There we go. Alright, we're going to start with this one as a base, and we're going to try to put her arms up like she's in a defensive stance and like she's backing away. So let me see if I can do this. Put her arms up a little, twist. There we go. So we're going to put all of her fingers extended on her left hand. Let's do kind of the same thing on her right hand. So on these, I like to use the pose controls on the right. These make it really, really easy to do. So I can just go and select each one. So you can, there are certain things where you can control her whole hand or individual fingers, and that gives me the pose that I want. Let's put kind of a scared or a surprised expression on her face as well. There we go. I got some really good expression faces. There we go. These are the ones I'm looking for. There we go. That's a pretty good one. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Excellent. And then for my werewolf, I'm going to make him kind of crouching and ready to attack. And got some pretty good preset werewolf poses that I think would look good with him. So let's try this. There we go. I like that one a lot. Kind of like he's crouched and ready to pounce. So I was going to reorient him a little bit. Let's rotate him around there. Let's move him back a little, get some distance between them. And kind of have him make eye contact with our Bridget figure. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is get my camera set up in place. I'm going to try to get 4 renders out of this. I'm going to do a close-up camera on each one of my figures, and then I'm going to do a further away kind of over-the-shoulder view on either one of them, kind of from this angle. So I'm going to create 4 cameras. And the first one I'm going to call Bridget OTS. That's Bridget over the shoulder. And then I'm going to do Bridget close. And then I'm going to do werewolf over the shoulder. And werewolf close. There we go, and then I'm going to get my cameras placed. So let's go to my camera view, Bridget over the shoulder. So this is going to be pointed at Bridget, not over her shoulder. So Bridget over the shoulder means over the shoulder of the werewolf, pointed at my Bridget figure. There we go, and since I moved my werewolf, she is no longer looking at him, so I'm going to adjust her pose a little bit. And let's do this from the left. There we go, I think that'll work. Alright, so that's Bridget OTS. Let's do Bridget close. So this is going to be our close-up shot of our Bridget figure. I think that'll be pretty good. And then werewolf over the shoulder. And werewolf close. And that werewolf does not look nearly menacing enough for my taste. So once I get this one in place, we're going to give him a different facial expression, make him a little more scary. There we go. Let's see what we can do with that. Let's do... There we go. That one looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to go back to perspective view, and now I'm going to give all of these cameras a depth of field. So we're going to start with Bridget close. I'm going to go to cameras, depth of field on. And we're not going to do a super extreme depth of field effect. I'm going to put her in the center of my f-stop plane. If you need any explanation of this, be sure to check out my earlier depth of field tutorial. I will link to that above if you want to check it out, as well as in the description below. We're going to make that wider. And let's try to get her hand where it's just about in focus. There we go, I think that'll be good. Alright, and then the Bridget over the shoulder cam. Depth of field on. Alright, and this one I'm gonna have to close it down a little bit. So lower the f-stop, a little bit too far. There we go, I think that'll probably work. And here is the werewolf over the shoulder. Depth of field on. Make sure our werewolf is in focus. There we go. I think that'll be good. Again, not a super extreme effect. The closer you have these down, like if I move that f-stop down, the more extreme that defocusing effect is going to be. So we want to use it to draw attention to our subject, but if you do it too much, everything's going to be really blurry and out of focus to the point that you won't be able to tell what is around him, and that will look kind of distracting. So that's what I want to avoid, but we'll check these out before we render. All right, the last one, this is the werewolf close-up. Some of these we might want a little more extreme or less extreme effects, and a lot of it is personal preference, so we'll check these out, and you might choose to do it differently than I did, but We'll see. All right. Let's see how this looks so far. Oh, actually, we're not going to have any lights in our scene just yet. It's going to be really, really dark. So let's go ahead and put in our lights. I'm going to use a 3-point lighting setup, but I'm going to do one on each of these subjects. So we're going to have to create 6 lights. So we're going to do a key, a fill, and a spotlight. I'm sorry, a key, a fill, and a backlight for each one of our 2 subjects. So we're going to start with Bridget Key. And then we're going to do Bridget Fill. And then Bridget Backlight. And then we're going to do the same thing with our werewolf character. And again, I'm going to go through this kind of fast, so if you need any explanation of this technique, be sure to check out my earlier video on 3-point lighting, and that one should get you up to speed. Alright, so let's start with our Bridget key light. And we're going to do this at about a 45-degree angle to our left, her right. About right there. And I may widen the spread angle a little bit just to get her entire body lit, but I'm just going to get a rough placement for right now. Let's go to Bridget Fill. The fill light, I'm going to place it opposite our other one at about the same angle. There we go. And then I'm going to do Bridget Backlight. And this one, we're going to place slightly above her, pointing down at her. And we're going to offset this one a little bit as well. Probably not quite a 45. There we go, pointing downward. Actually, let's try this directly behind her. I might change that later, but we're going to put that at a 90-degree. There we go. Then we're going to do the same thing for our werewolf lights. There we go. So nearly identical lighting setups for our 2 figures. There we go, pointing down at the wolf on the backlight. All right, now we're going to get our settings in place. So I'm going to click the lighting tab, and we're going to start with the Bridget key light. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set all of the parameters that are going to be identical across our lights. So for light geometry, we're going to set to disk, just like in the previous video. For height, we're going to do 55, and for width we're going to do 55. Again, for what exactly these mean, be sure to check out my earlier video, because I'm just going to kind of blaze through these. Two-sided is off, render emitter is also off, and we're going to leave the lumens and temperature right now. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of our lights the exact same way. Alright, so I've got all of those parameters set. Now I'm going to go ahead and figure out where I want my lumens, and I also might play with the color and the temperature a little bit to get more of a moonlight effect. So I'm going to start with Bridget over the shoulder. Let's go into Iray view, and we'll see what this looks like. There we go, looking pretty good so far. Not nearly as well lit as I would like, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Bridget key light, and I'm going to start bumping up my lumens. So we're on 1500 by default, so I'm going to try about 10,000. See what that looks like. A little bit better. Let's try 12,000. All right, let's go up one more notch. Let's do 16,000. There we go. Now it's trying to look about where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and select my fill light for Bridget. And I'm going to use a 2-to-1 ratio on this. So if I'm 16,000 on my key light, this one is going to be 8,000. And then my backlight is also going to be 16,000. That's going to be the same as my key light. There we go, that's starting to look a little better. And I may adjust my positioning a little bit, move her a little bit closer. But I think this might work for now, though. Alright, I am going to go ahead and shift my color a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the key light and make this one just a little bit bluer. So usually a little bit goes a long way with this towards achieving this moonlight effect. There we go. So let's do the same thing with the fill light. And with the backlight. These values don't have to be precise. I usually just kind of eyeball it and just kind of tweak things by hand as I see fit. There we go. That's starting to look really nice. All right, let's check out the close-up cam. Very good. Yeah, excellent. That bluish light gives it a really kind of a more mysterious look and effect. I actually think I'm going to adjust the positioning on my backlight a little bit to get more of that glow rim. Let's see. Let's go to, there we go, Bridget backlight. And I think I'm going to position that, oops. I was trying to slow down a little bit. Let me go back to texture shaded view. There we go. Let's try bringing it down here and see what that looks like. And just to see what it looks like, I'm going to try positioning that light on the other side, because I think it might be better to have that foreground portion a little bit lit up. So let's try that then, just for experimentation purposes. There we go. I think I like that one a lot better. I'm going to leave that where it is. Excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our, actually, let me look at the over-the-shoulder camera first. Also looks pretty good. I like that one. Now let's check out our werewolf cams. Let's do werewolf over the shoulder first. Alright, still super, super dark. So we're going to select his key light, and we're going to try the same values we used for Bridget and see how that works. So we're going to do 16,000 on the key light. Alright, and then 8,000 on the fill light. And 16,000 on the backlight. All right, I think that might work pretty well. Let's go ahead and shift these into the blue again, like we did for the other ones. All right, let's check out that close-up camera. Yeah, I think I like this a lot. I like the way the backlight creates that glow there. That looks really good. All right, let me go ahead and do one final check on all of my other cameras, and then we will get ready to render. All right, that all looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to render these 4 different cameras, and then I'll pop back in and we'll check it out and see how everything looks. Alright, and here are the 4 finished images. This is the werewolf close-up, and the Bridget figure close-up, and the werewolf over the shoulder, and Bridget over the shoulder. So I debated on whether or not to do the blue lighting, but I really think I like it with the blue. Again, it just creates kind of a moonlight effect. It maybe even could have been a little bit more extreme, but I think I like it the way it is. The backlight is what creates this glow on the figures, which I love. I really think that adds a lot to pretty much any type of render of a living figure. So I definitely highly recommend using that. And then of course the defocus effects, the depth of field effects, make the defocused background, which draws attention to your figure and makes them pop out even more. That combined with the glow, again, kind of draws your attention to the figure. So I really, really like those a lot. And they actually rendered relatively quickly. I love this background that I use, or this environment rather that I use, because it's very, very light on render times. So they rendered relatively quickly. And then that defocus effect also gets these nice, this nice starlight effect with the stars in the background. Photographers call that bokeh, B-O-K-E-H, but really cool lighting effect there in the background. So if you want to download these and view the full 1440p versions of these images, I'm going to link to them on my Patreon page. I'll put a link in the description below, but you can download all of them for free. And that will do it for this time. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Or don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button and maybe the notification bell. I've got lots more of these tutorials coming out. I'm going to try to do one of these full scene setups every week. And so Halloween, or October is going to be all spooky Halloween horror movie themed stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.